And Sardar Saadi is a PhD student in social and cultural anthropology at the University of Toronto. He is engaged in migrant justice, anti-capitalist, and solidarity activism. He is a member of the Rojava Solidarity Collective and is the project coordinator of the Rojava Media Project, which the photos are still up from a project that they did here.
Okay, so I will try to be a little bit more hopeful about what's happening. Okay, let me first start to thank the Center for Social Justice and Nana and Beit Zaytun for hosting us here. I think it's very important to have such a discussions here in this environment about the Canadian government's involvement in what's happening in the Middle East and what we can do here. We have started a group in Toronto, Rojava Solidarity Collective, and the first paragraph that we were talking about our hallmarks, and we agreed that only a critique of imperialism in the Middle East is not enough. Any kind of solidarity work must be must address the situation in the region as well. And what I'm saying about what I mean about the situation that's created, but not only by imperialist powers, but also by authoritarian regimes in the Middle East. Like people who are coming from the region, like Dr. Sabah and everyone else, who have experienced in so many levels the state violence on the hands of the authoritarian regimes and the many revolutions that's happening, and that they have been not successful very much. It's just because of the imperialist power. But we also have jihadist groups, and they are like a very serious threat to the not only to the political life of the people in the region, but also to the value of life, like the whole civilization that we are carrying in each of us. So I think these three are very important, like imperialist power, authoritarian regimes, and jihadist group. And without an analysis of all of them, we can't really provide genuine solidarity. We can't show that with the people. Okay, so I'm supposed to talk about Rojava. I visited the Rojava region in Syria in August 2014, and that's when I went to Rojava. I went to Iraq, Erbil. It was the time that ISIS attacked Shangal mountain, Sinjar mountain, and over 100,000 people, Yazidi refugees, 100,000 refugee people were displaced, and many became refugees around the region in Turkey, in Iraq, but mainly in Rojava region. And the main group who provided a safe corridor for these people were YPG forces from Rojava. And these people, they started to get some attentions right now after Kobani because of ISIS and because of the image that media is creating of what's happening in Rojava according to their own agenda. But really what's happening there is a genuine social revolution that's spreading all over the Middle East. Like for Kobani, we had so many protests from Afghanistan, from Iran, in Turkey, in Iraq, and in other countries around the world. So there is a very much separation between what we are hearing from media, from mainstream media about the region and what's happening on the ground. And this multi-ethnic, multi-religious character of the Middle East throughout the history, the modern history, from the time that colonial powers started to exploit this region for the oil, it has been used in many ways. I would I really wanted to show an image of the situation in Syria right now, but what's happening, but we don't have a PowerPoint, but that's okay. Like, I just want to show where the Rojava region is located in Syria. But also I just want to mention that the making of the Middle East, that after 1916 Sykes-Picot secret agreement and then Lausanne Treaty, that basically draw the current map of the Middle East, and at that very beginning they ignored the Kurdish people's right for self-determination in those countries. But I also wanted to make this point very clear, that this is not about the Kurds. After this border that was made between Syria and Turkey, that's right now a very crucial point in the whole situation in the Middle East, because this is the border that ISIS is using, and with the hope of the Turkish government, that in my opinion it's not really that much difference in their agenda. It's probably much dangerous in long term, because this is a neoliberal Islam agenda, and with AKP government and the level of violence on the streets after the Gezi resistance, and right now even after the uprisings for Kobani, it's unbelievable, and it's the state committing them, and it's very much legitimized, and yeah, so I feel like I totally agree that ISIS is a scapegoat basically in the whole situation right now. Like, everyone is involved in worsening what's happening in the Middle East, and in the current chaos that's we're following and we're seeing. And anyway, so that border, I want to show an image that after the Sykes-Picot agreement, many cities, many villages, many territories by Kurdish and Arab and Syriani and even Armenian tribes was they were divided between Turkey and Syria, and there were like some cities literally divided in two, like Kamishlu and Nusaybin. There are other cities like Ceylanpınar and Ras Al Ain, city that Kurds call Serekani, which means fountain, and also in Kobani and Afrin. So the whole Rojava region that we know right now was kind of created by that colonial agreement. And after that, after the creation of the state of the Syrian state, as we know, as an entity, many of those Kurdish tribes were forced to go back to Turkey. They were divided, and throughout the 20th century, there was an Arabization and assimilation politics in those regions. Many of the villages were emptied, many displaced, and until 2011, about 300,000 Kurds in Syria, they didn't have any status, actually. And in terms of economic and social and economic situation, it's also very much below the standard of living in Syria before revolution. After 2011, there are like so many examples of the Kurdish uprising in Syria, but after 2011, the whole world know about the reality of the Kurds in Syria, because they were like very much, the population is much smaller from other countries. So the Kurds, I'm sure you all know, there are about 40 million people divided into 4 countries: Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and Syria. The largest part is in Turkey, about 20 to 25 million. In Iran, we have about 7 to 10 millions. In Iraq, about 5 to 7 millions. And in Syria, from 2 to 3 millions. I'm Kurdish from Iran, but I have been studying the Kurdish self-determination movement in Turkey mainly, but right now I'm very much interested in Rojava. So the Kurdish political movement in Syria and Turkey very much is affected by the PKK, Kurdistan Workers' Party, which is totally different from what we have in Iraq. And the PKK has been criminalized by the whole war, basically, till maybe a couple of months ago, because they were fighting a NATO ally, Turkey, and they were, the PKK is in the terrorist list organization of all Western countries, the United States, the European Union, Canada, and Turkey's allies in the war. So in Syria, because Öcalan was in Syria, he started first. So Abdullah Öcalan is the leader of the PKK. He's right now imprisoned in Imrali prison in Turkey. He was in Syria, and he very much used that capacity to build his movement and the PKK. So the Kurdish movement, as we know, with the PKK, the political movement, was had very strong ties and strong bases in Syria. Coming back to what I was trying to say about 2011, after the civil war, after the revolution in Syria, that ended up in the situation that we are seeing right now, the main Kurdish political party, Democratic Union Party, PYD, they declared that they are not going to take part in the civil war. They refused to be part of Free Syrian Army and NATO-supported groups. Also, they also refused to participate in any campaign and any alliance with the Syrian regime. Right now, many Syrian oppositions may not agree with me, and they might say that there are always some ties between PYD and the Assad regime, which is not true. And from 2004, that the Qamishli uprising happened, Syrian Kurds, they have been in the front line of the revolution in Syria. But right now, it's much clear that they refuse to take part in any kind of military aggression. And from the beginning of the civil war, they refused any alliance with NATO, and they refused that basically. So from 2011, they started controlling. They started controlling these Kurdish regions, and they divided into 3 cantons. And these 3 cantons, they started to establish their own self-rule and self-administration for kind of autonomous governments. Jazeera Canton, which is very close to Iraq, between Iraq, Turkey, and Kobani Canton, that right now is under attack. It's under siege by both ISIS and Turkey, and also Afrin Canton, that's right now under threat by the other jihadist group, Al-Nusra Front. Yeah. So PYD in 2013 they started to write a constitutional document called the social contract between all the ethnic and religious group in Rojava. I really wanted to read that, but I'm not sure if I have time. The preamble of the constitution, I think it's a very important document, and it's for the people who are coming from the region, they know that this is probably the most democratic document that right now it's being practiced on the ground. So I'm just going to read probably 2 paragraphs. We, the people of the democratic autonomous regions of Afrin, Jazeera, and Kobani, a confederation of Kurds, Arabs, Syriacs, Armenians, Iranians, Turkmen, Armenians, and Chechens, freely and solemnly declared and established this charter. In pursuit of freedom, justice, dignity, and democracy, and led by principles of equality and environmental sustainability. The translation is a little bit liberal, so you could say ecological liberation. I'm gonna talk about that later, if I have time. The Charter proclaims a new social contract based on mutual and peaceful coexistence and understanding between all strands of society. It protects fundamental human rights and liberties and reaffirms the people's right to self-determination. Anyway, it continues. You can find it if you just Google the Constitution of the Rojava. And the main ideological base for this constitution was the idea that Abdullah Öcalan developed in Imravi prison. It's called democratic confederalism. I brought a couple, couple documents. So this one is democratic confederalism. It's a very short handbook. You can find it online. And so Öcalan in 2004 started to read many new books, and working on new ideas, and mainly with anarchist thinkers, and specifically Murray Bookchin. And he wrote many books, like from The Roots of Civilization to Roadmap, Prison Writings, and many other works. And he basically rejected the idea of revolution by taking the state, and referred to the state in the Middle East as the main reason of the current chaos. And also he said that capitalism, like there are like so many points about capitalism and capitalist modernity in the Middle East that's not working, and the character of the Middle East is not about the capitalist modernity. And he was mainly promoting the idea of libertarian municipalism, which is Murray Bookchin's idea, and what's that one, the other one called? So gender liberation and libertarian ecology, or ecology of freedom. There are like so many new ideas, and the Kurdish political movement, and after local elections in Turkey, actually, the Kurds, they start to implement these ideas in the municipalities. That's actually my, okay, maybe just one more minute. That's my project of research. And in municipalities, they start to work on these ideas. So if I just summarize that in like a few sentences, democratic confederalism is basically a notion of radical democracy, that people in the region should organize themselves from below, establishing people's assemblies, and each assembly to have their own power of self-defense. And this assemblies, this commune coming together, forming on different levels, for example, neighborhood assemblies, city assemblies, and further and further. And the umbrella organization is KJK right now, politically. The KJK stands for Kurdistan Union of Societies in Kurdistan. And in Rojava, what I saw was in every neighborhood there were like from 10 to 15 communes. Like for example, in 2 streets, 2 alleys, a few households, they come together, form a commune. They have their own roles, and from these communes they have neighborhood assemblies. From the neighborhood assemblies they have city assemblies, and from city assemblies they have canton assembly. And there are quotas based on the ethnic and religious character of each neighborhood, and there's also 40% quota for women. And in each of them, we met with some of them. The main power is actually the quota is for men. Like they're like we met with a few communes, neighborhood communes. Like one of them, there were like probably 8 women and only a guy. So these assemblies are around the Rojava region. PYD has 2 defense groups, YPG and YPJ. YPG stands for People's Protection Units, and YPJ is Women's Defense Units. And they also have security forces and civilian security forces in general, and especially for women. And the women one is specifically dealing with domestic violence. And we actually saw like a couple incidents how they beat up the guys. And yeah, I think I'm gonna end that, but in the question answers probably we could have we could talk a little bit more about it.